Hey friend, welcome back to the Vision Driven Health Podcast, your go-to place for how to create healthy habits that last in partnership with God. I hear it often from most of my listeners that the biggest challenge is being consistent. If you deeply want to have a healthy lifestyle, but feel that the chasm between where you're at and that dream healthy lifestyle is way too wide to cross, today I've got hope and a way to get to the other side. And I'll be honest, it's not easy, and it won't happen overnight. But it is simple and it is possible. Let's get into it. Do you find yourself struggling to consistently implement healthy habits? Do you lack energy, confidence, and motivation because of stress, overwhelm, and shame for having not gotten it together by now? Friend, there is hope and grace for your health. Hey, I'm Robin Ryan McDonald, host of the Vision Driven Health Podcast. I'm a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mama of two, and a seminarian turned health coach. And I'm so excited that you're here. I found myself in my early 20s captive to cravings and convenience. 20 pounds heavier, super tired, with a face full of acne. I could not figure out how to maintain healthy habits until I discovered the power of aligning my choices with God's vision. 10 years and 2 kids later, by the grace of God, I'm still prioritizing my health and feeling amazing. If you are over quick fixes and are ready to feel good in your own skin, then grab a giant water bottle and let's dive on in. As a reminder, the Vision Driven Health Podcast is under the umbrella of Naval Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions. If a big reason you find yourself struggling to be consistent is because you feel totally overwhelmed and spread way too thin, you're going to want to grab my Overcome the Overwhelm PDF. It's short, it's simple, and it provides 3 things to do each day that combined take 15 minutes. The clients I've had who've done those 3 things consistently report an increase in energy, weight loss, and often improved sleep as well. Grab this guide for free at visiondrivenhealth.com/resources. If you're listening to this, it's most likely not because you think that healthy habits are pointless and that there's no reason to try and support your physical well-being. Most of us don't need to be convinced that it is beneficial to take care of our bodies. Nearly all of us are aware of how much better life feels when we feel good physically. The big challenge is having the energy and the motivation to be consistent. And that is to be consistent with what it takes to actually get our bodies to a state of wellness. Part of the challenge is not knowing what to do. Another challenge is feeling discouraged by failed attempts in the past. And even more challenges come into play when you feel as though you do not have the mental or physical energy to do what it takes to eat healthy. So, what are you supposed to do? You want to feel good. You want to be healthy. You want to be that person who actually enjoys cooking and has everything all sorted out when it comes to their diet. And yet, you found yourself feeling exhausted, tired, discouraged, and confused on how in the world you're supposed to make that a reality. You may even be in the place where it feels impossible to create that lifestyle. Friend, today I'm going to break down exactly what you need to do in order to break out of a pattern of low energy and low motivation to start making the progress you need on your healthy habits. I've got 6 key steps. Are you ready? All right. Step number 1 is the most important step. You cannot skip it. You cannot forget it. And you have to keep coming back to this one over and over and over again. Step 1 of 6 is to partner with God in this process. Step 1 for the Healthy Weight Loss Academy, for my one-on-one coaching program, any challenge or resource that I've put together, this is the foundation that I build everything around. We need Jesus to be able to create a truly sustainable, freedom-based, healthy lifestyle. So yes, all of my usual vision-driven listeners knew this was coming, but truly, how many of you know that when your energy is low and your motivation is low, that we need the living God to help us to do something about it? He cares about your health more than you do. He's also your manufacturer. You can also say your creator. But if anyone is going to be able to give you insight into your body, he is. And for a super cool testimony or an example of what that can look like, check out episode 4 with my friend Carly. And that's like you have to scroll really, really far back, obviously, now that we're in the 120s in our episodes. But she shares about how God gave her insight into the inflammation that she was experiencing and how she got to have some cool breakthrough. So how do you invite God? Well, just pray and ask him to partner with you in this. Ask for his grace. Listen for his insight. If you're newer to your faith, or maybe you haven't intentionally partnered with God on something in the past, you can write it out in a journal. I've personally found that to be really helpful. You can have someone pray with you. There's a variety of ways. Even just every time you go to the grocery store, you can be thinking and praying to the Lord. Every time you're trying to figure out what to eat, every morning, noon, and night, you can bring God into your health. In the same way that we invite God into our marriage, our families, our workplace, he wants to be a part of your health journey. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I know sometimes our health journey can be pretty ugly. The thoughts that we think about ourselves, the way that we beat ourselves up and shame ourselves when we binge and we didn't want to. Sometimes our health journey and the thought process behind all of it can be one of those places that we just don't want God to see or to be invited into, when it's actually the very place we need him to be, to bring us healing and to bring us freedom so that we can move forward in a healthy lifestyle that enables us to have the energy and vitality to be and do what he's called us to do. So that's number 1. Partner with God. Number 2, decide and commit. Now, I imagine there's a good amount of you who have never fully committed to the process of creating a healthy lifestyle. Now, you might hear that and say, well, hold on a second, Robin. I did commit and I did lose the weight, but here I am back where I started. But that's my point. You may have committed to the diet, to that weight loss, but you didn't commit to the lifestyle. And part of the problem might have been that whatever you committed to wasn't sustainable in the first place. You could have never imagined yourself eating that diet for more than a few weeks or months. It was purely for the purpose of dropping the weight that you wanted, most likely in a specific time frame. The word decide means to kill off all other options, like pesticide kills bugs, herbicide kills weeds. Decide means you're choosing the one thing and all the other options are as good as dead. And that's what we're saying when we decide to marry our spouse. I can tell you right now, I am not the same person I was when I first got married almost 10 years ago. I think in most things, I'm a better person by God's grace. Other things, I'm just completely different. I've changed my mind on a lot of things. And then maybe, some areas got worse. Hopefully not, but it's possible. I'm human. But if Ryan was only committed to Robin in 2012 when we first met, or in 2015 when we got married, we wouldn't still be together. But he didn't say yes to a certain way of me. He just committed to me. And you want to get to the point where you aren't just committing to an outcome of healthy eating, which for most of us is weight loss. You want to commit to health, period. If you know it's not supportive of your health to go through the drive-thru every day, don't do that. If it's not supportive of it's not supportive of my marriage to go to bars and talk to other men, that doesn't make sense because I've committed myself to one man and his name is Ryan. When you're committed to something, you can then make choices that either align or don't align with that commitment. Even if I'm upset with Ryan, I'm not quitting. Even if he doesn't agree with my perspective on something, he's not leaving. No, we figure out how to make it work. There may be aspects of healthy habits and healthy living that don't fit your context now, but you can still be committed to healthy eating by being willing and intentional in figuring out how to make it work, even when you don't feel like it. That is why I have my clients spend so much time crafting their God-given vision for their health, because this clarity is so important for deciding and remaining committed so that you can be consistent. So that was number 2, decide and commit. Number 3, be realistic. You want to give your brain rewards. It's rewarded when you follow through on what you set out to do. This makes forming a habit much easier and quicker. When we come up with a bunch of extreme things we have to do to lose weight, we set ourselves up for failure. Instead of cutting out all fast food and sweets starting on Monday, what if you made your goal to cook 3 homemade dinners this week? What if instead of 60 minutes of cardio, you did 15 minutes of intentional resistance training, which I personally believe is far more effective than 60 minutes of cardio anyway? What if you decided to try to lose 5 pounds this month instead of 15? If you're committed to a healthy lifestyle, you want to make sure that what you're doing is sustainable. If you can't see yourself doing it 5 years from now, let alone 5 months, you might as well skip it altogether. Most of the time when you lose weight in a way that doesn't align with what you see yourself doing years from now, you gain it back anyway. One thing I have seen time and time again with clients is that when we start small and get consistent on 3 to 5 simple things out the gate, it sets clients up for even greater success because they were able to win from the beginning. Which, by the way, I mentioned before, I have that Overcome the Overwhelm PDF. That is a fantastic place to start with those 3 simple things that are in that guide. And if you can start there, get those consistent, you can form a win that you can build from. It's all about being realistic and starting appropriately. So that's number 3, being realistic with yourself. Number 4 is give yourself a fighting chance. Now, I know I just said be realistic, and I think that can sometimes be interpreted to mean that you take it easy and go slow, but that's actually not what I'm saying, per se. Because what you might not realize if you're lacking energy and motivation is that you're caught in a vicious cycle. You're too tired and unmotivated to eat healthy, but you're suffering from low energy and motivation because you aren't eating healthy. And this is probably the second most important thing to inviting God into this process. You must do your best to eat whole foods and stay hydrated. I'm telling you, those 2 things are a game changer for energy. Drink at least 100 ounces of water. If you have to, maybe closer to 80 ounces, but you've got to stay hydrated. Look into getting some electrolytes. That's actually a key factor for hydration. And do your best to choose whole foods. And that means unprocessed foods. We're talking meat, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, maybe some sprouted grains or fermented grains, organic, raw dairy. And it's kind of tricky because I know when you think of like a potato chip, sure, it's a potato, or I think there's like veggie straws or whatever. There's veggies in them, but they're all still processed because they were fried in inflammatory oil. Or a donut, even though that's made with whole grains, it's been significantly processed and also fried in inflammatory oil and then coated in more sugar. A fast food meal, though maybe the closest to whole foods, likely has been injected with weird products and ingredients that take away from what would otherwise be wholesome food. So really, the more you can cook at home, the better. And again, I recognize this is the hardest step when your motivation is low, but if you can commit long enough to allow this to become a habit, you can get to the point where your energy is back and your motivation is high because you've seen what's possible. And just a caveat on motivation. Motivation is fleeting at the end of the day. And that's why I don't say like get motivated or choose motivation. I'm saying to decide and commit, because deciding and committing and acting is going to happen irrespective of whether or not you feel motivated. However, we can feel extra motivation when our energy is back and when we start to see results. But that often comes on the other side of making the choice to do the hard thing consistently, even when we don't feel like it. So that brings me to number 5, which is get accountability. There is something to be said about the power of accountability. When we have someone we answer to, we are much more inclined to follow through. We've all been there where it's, if it's just up to us, it's kind of like, well, I'll get to it, or oops, didn't do that. But then if you tell someone like, hey, I'm going to do this by this time, and then they like actually follow up and they're like, okay, like I'm counting on you. You're like, oh snap, like I got to make sure I do this, right? So you want to pick someone you respect who has had victory and success in the arena of health. They themselves have demonstrated consistency. They see the value of putting in work to create healthy change in their life. And when you ask someone who doesn't value lasting health, they're not going to hold you to the standards you feel led to do. And make sure it's not some friend who lost a bunch of weight doing some sort of short-term quick fix solution, because you want to get support from someone who's done it the way that you want to do it. Because otherwise they're going to buy your excuses. You'll be like, hey, like I couldn't do it, or so this happened, so I didn't get my walk in, or I didn't end up actually cooking. We just went through the drive-through. I was just so stressed and I didn't do it. And they'll say, oh, no worries. I probably would have done the same. Or they'll just even forget to check in with you altogether. And between myself and my longer standing students, the programs that I've done in the past, my Facebook community, I've seen the power of community in the way that these ladies will come and cheer each other on, where I don't even have to say anything. It's just them saying, oh my gosh, I've been there. Here's what I tried. And there's just something to having that kind of community, which actually leads me to number 6, join community, right? So number 5 was get accountability, which can be an individual, but then additionally, you want to join a community. And the reason being is that we are the average of the top 5 people we spend our time with. Studies have shown that your health reflects the health of those around you. This testifies to the reality that our health is a result of our choices. We usually make the same choices as those around us. It can be cultural, with your family, your workplace, your community. And at the end of the day, God designed us to function in community. And while it may be difficult to find others as committed to health as you want to be, it's important to find those who will be supportive. If you are not intentionally surrounding yourself with people who reflect the values and traits you want to embody, it's time to get in those spaces. And an easy one that you can do today, if you haven't joined my free Facebook group, is to join at visiondrivenhealth.com/group. All right, friend, there you have it. To summarize, these 6 ways to get consistent with healthy eating, even when your energy and motivation are low, are as follows. Number 1, invite the Lord into the process. Partner with God. Number 2, decide, kill off all the other options and commit. Number 3, be realistic with what you've decided and committed to. Number 4, give yourself a fighting chance. Commit to those whole foods and that hydration so that you can have the energy you need. Number 5, get accountability. And number 6, join community. As always, I hope this has been helpful. Feel free to share it with a friend. Share it with that friend that you want to be your accountability person, or create your own little community group. I think that'd be awesome. I do welcome any thoughts and questions at visiondrivenhealth@gmail.com. Otherwise, have an amazing, blessed day, and I will be back with the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Vision Driven Health podcast today. I hope this episode inspired you, supported you, and blessed you in some way. If it did, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast and share this episode on your social media. The more reviews and shares this gets, the more people can be blessed and encouraged in creating a Jesus-centered, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. If you want to hang with me and other Jesus-loving ladies who are creating healthy habits that last, be sure to join my free Facebook group, the Made Well Mastermind. Use the link in the show notes to join. Be blessed with hope, joy, and health. I'll see you next week. Again, the Vision Driven Health podcast is under the umbrella of Made Well Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions.